what I'd love to, complete the workshop with is sharing some like feel good tricks that I feel actually just cause success. And then, when the workshop replay is up, which it will be within school in the next couple of days, you can always revisit this tapping round. You can come back to it. You can do the visualization again if that helps you to get into a state. But these are the tricks that I feel have really been able to help me. Some of them I learned from my time with Mama Gina last spring, and some of them I've just learned from my own practice with, nervous system regulation and learning how to be more and do less and accomplish as much, if not more, than I did when I was in like productivity mode for all of those years. So the first thing is, and this is going to sound simple, but most of us are just like, yeah, I know, and we don't actually do it. And that is to literally just implement some daily pleasure rituals for yourself. And kind of like I said before, because our inner compass and our intuition might be a little askew, this does require some experimentation because we might really think that we enjoy one thing. And then when we go to do that, it's like, that's actually not totally pleasurable for me. And then move on to something else. But to actually take the time to settle into some different rituals and see how they feel for you. This could be as simple as just having a beverage that you enjoy while you're doing your work or something like that. I find great ritual in like preparing an awesome cup of something. It depends on the day what I'm drinking, but I absolutely love a beverage that just makes me feel nourished and taken care of and kind of fancy. Favorite music, having music on. I realized when I started studying pleasure again that I used to have music on all the time. I mean, I used to sing, I used to be in a band, I used to like be surrounded by music. And I feel like there was too many years in there when I just would forget to turn it on. And I started to come into my office in the morning and be like, okay, even though I'm working and I don't really want like stuff that's going to distract me, I'd put on some like awesome like binaural beats or some focus music or something that just felt good to listen to while I was doing my work. And, found myself doing a lot more DJing in the car with the family and stuff like that. And those things are pleasurable, but sometimes we just forget how easy it is to access that. Taking a walk, that used to be an every so often thing. Now it's like a non-negotiable. If you guys ever like watch my stories on Instagram, most of the time I'm out there walking. That's when I get my inspirations, my downloads. That's when I like connect with nature. And that's when I feel like the best energy. And really just that vitality. Pleasure is important for our health too, with so many people having health goals or, that want to lose weight or that want to feel better in our bodies or, not just have this status quo level of health where it's like, oh yeah, I have aches and pains, I have headaches. Oh, this is normal. It ain't normal. Like, stuff's not normal. And we've all kind of accepted a certain amount, like, oh yeah, this is just kind of what comes with the crap we eat and the way that we live and everything else. But pleasure and nervous system regulation allow us to have less stress hormones. Less stress hormones allow us to enter states of health easier. And all of this is connected. So yeah, finding some things to bring into your day-to-day life and experimenting with things also. So again, bringing awareness to your five senses. Like sometimes when I'm sitting on a Zoom call like this, I found that I very much enjoy just making like light circles on my hand with the other hand, like just enjoying like just light touch, like almost kind of tickles, but like sometimes I'm just sitting on Zoom meetings, just touching my hands and it's so pleasurable. And like, but I wasn't doing that for years and it just makes it more enjoyable to sit in Zoom meetings. So yeah, take meditation breaks. You can rub your own feet or hands. Amazing. Like we don't do it a lot of the time, but like we have all these different acupressure points and things and it feels good. And then of course, learning new skills that bring more pleasure, whether that's, sexually related skills or it's, learning massage, playing an instrument, learning to knit, paint, whatever it is that floats your boat, like bring in more pleasure. The problem that we normally have, with leveraging pleasure is that so many of us have gone to a place where we take pride in our accomplishments, and instead of taking pride in our accomplishments and like bragging about them, we tend to be more self-critical. We tend to play down the things that we're doing or experiencing in our lives. And this is kind of leading into the next trick. instead of like holding positive versions of ourselves and positive visions of the future and expressing like our desire and our turn on about things, like, like Sharon saying, I'm excited about what I'm going to do this afternoon. I've got all these ideas and everything. Instead of us actually like expressing that and sharing that, we tend to instead like run or share these like worst case scenarios or, you know, the things that are going on in our head that we're worrying about because for some reason we're more likely to be trying to prepare for an emergency than to prepare for something amazing to happen. And then like rather than finding appreciation and gratitude for the people that we love and the things that we love about our life, we often find fault with those things in hopes that that's going to make them better. This happens a lot in relationships. It's like, well, we'll just point out all the flaws and that'll fix them somehow. But it does not work that way. So simply put, like we don't just enjoy and reflect upon our regular everyday lives often enough. So this next set of tricks is one that I picked up when I was working with Mama Gina. And she would have us do what she called the Holy Trinity of brags, desires, and gratitudes. And this in her container had a lot more to do with like sexual things, and that was beautiful, and like bring it if that's what you want to bring it towards. But we can brag, desire, and have gratitude about anything. So in practice, she would have us do this with like partners, or we would have actual calls where like the whole purpose of the call was for everybody to just take a turn expressing 3 brags, 3 desires, and 3 gratitudes. And to do that in like from an energy of turn on, like kind of from that energy that we left that EFT and that visualization from, where like you're just excited and like turned on about what lies ahead. And then, you can brag about all the things that you've experienced or that are happening for you or that you accomplished. You can express the things that you desire, and when you're expressing your desires, and you can do this in written format, or you can do it with a friend, or you can voice record it and enjoy listening back to it. But when you're expressing your desires, it needs to be done from a place where anything is possible, like not like, oh, but how, oftentimes I'm thinking it's Urbaniak. I'm just rereading the book Unbound right now. I'm trying to think. The last name of the author is Urbaniak, but she talks about like our good girl programming and everything else, and how some people find problem with it because the word girl in there. But she's like, it's so important because girls, especially when we're expressing desires, like, and we're kind of going to that bad girl side and expressing like the desires, a little girl isn't worried about the logistics of like having a pony on a 10th floor apartment. She just wants the pony. Like, and I think that's one of the examples that she gives. But like when you're having your desires, think from that perspective of like, I don't give a fuck how it happens. It's going to happen. Like, it's just like, I'm going to make it happen. And because whatever, I want it. Like that's the perspective that the desire should come from. I mean, you can desire anything that you want and make it big and make it wonderful. And then, gratitude is, we're all familiar with gratitude, but they can be like big, juicy gratitudes. So that, if you literally do that every day, that will just kind of keep the juices flowing about pleasure, because you're literally putting yourself into that element over and over and over again. It's also one of those things that you have to kind of like get accustomed to doing. I know like getting on calls the first time when it was like one-on-one with other people in the group and trying to express that, it's like, okay, well, I brag, and then you're kind of like, oh, am I allowed to brag? Is bragging okay? Like I've been told not to brag and not to, but like we do some pretty fantastic stuff, and like people should know about it. And the people who know, like, trust, want to be around us, they love hearing what's going well for us. Like, I don't know. I've never heard anybody like brag on themselves that I was just like, shut up. Like, I was just like, I want to hear more of it. Like, yes, I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. Like, I'll take that and more. And then we would always kind of like, we would just receive that from whoever was talking about it. It was never with judgment or like, oh, is that all? Or, that's never going to happen or whatever. You just receive it from the other person. And then just kind of, yeah, all that and more, just kind of with that kind of energy. So that's definitely a way that you can allow pleasure to propel your success. And then the most potent one that I'm going to wrap this up with is, well, I'll start it by just kind of asking, like, when your mind wanders, where does it go? Like when you allow yourself to just let your mind wander, does it go to like a pleasant dream or fantasy or something that like is a next level like goal or vision? Or does it rather go to like catastrophe or like some unlikely hazard or something that you're worrying about? Because I know for the majority of people, it's the latter, and that's okay. But this next trick is all about swapping doing for being. Even if it's just for a few minutes a day, because I know for a lot of people, if you've never actually just practiced being, it feels kind of weird, you know? It's all about expanding your capacity for just pleasurable nothingness, you know, allowing yourself to enjoy just timeless, even like buoyant moments of just being. Summertime is happening right now as we record this. I love going to the pool for this, like literally like being buoyant, floating in water, and just being. That's one of my favorite things, to just get in the pool, lay on my back and float and close my eyes. And just like you kind of hear the whooshing water and just, I don't know, that's one of my favorite ways to just be. And of course, let your head clear. I'm not in there worrying about anything. Um, it's not about where you go or what you do, though. I mean, so often when we think about relaxing or relaxing activities, we're like, oh, well, you know, go to a movie or we'll go for a hike or we'll go out to eat or we go somewhere and do something. And that's not being. You know, being is about creating an empty space to relax in. So, and in that space, being fully committed to just letting go. So, it's a place where whatever is going on inside of you, whatever worries, whatever issues, maybe has a brief opportunity to rise to the surface, get a little bit of your restful attention, but then to just let it go and let it sink back down below the surface. When you are just being, you do not have a care in the world, because for those moments, whether it's 60 seconds, a half an hour, whatever you can tolerate, you've chosen to let those cares go. Maybe you are just resting in that like capital T truth of who you really are, which is a being that is powerful beyond measure, totally unlimited, not mortal, but timeless, and not your body or your mind. You know, all of those are the real truth of who you are. You know, you're not that project you have to do. You're not your debt or your, you know, your past relationship with a parent or your divorce or your whatever. Like you're not any of those things. So, and that's for me, this one has been a very spiritual one, enhanced a lot by the spiritual pleasures. I find myself a lot more able to get into being from a spiritual perspective. I recently, after a retreat last month, started revisiting and actually like for real diving into, instead of just skimming, in my ADHD fashion, A Course in Miracles. I don't know if either of you have ever studied it or are familiar with it, but I absolutely love a lot of the meditations that I found on that, like on YouTube and stuff. And those really allow me to get into a place of being. Happy to share a playlist that I love if either of you are interested. But yeah, I can, I'll see if I can find it here and drop it before we get off. But yeah, I like, sometimes a guided meditation helps me with being, because I don't do being very well just with silence. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short, because in the silence, it's like everything starts creeping in. But if I have some binaural beats or a guided meditation or like some hypnosis tracks or something to listen to, I do very well with just being and letting myself sink into that. But in these moments that we allow ourselves to be, this is why it's so important, we keep emptying our mind of thoughts. We're freeing our body of the contractions of fear. From there, you get to this place where none of that old stuff's happening. You know, it's not happening anyway, but like you actually have like let it go and you're not attached to the programming. It's like breaking free of the matrix. And from there, you transcend your history, and because it's not you. And there's a greater likelihood, when you can put yourself into that place of being more often, that something new, something pleasant, something pleasurable will emerge, and that you will have, through doing that, cultivated the space and the tolerance to receive it. And that's where the gifts really get to come in.